Okay, the February 5th meeting of the Yardley Borough Council will come to order with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good evening. Funny, everyone comes out in bad weather and now in nice weather, so it's a beautiful thing. Okay, we'll begin with, I need a motion to adopt the minutes.
Move to adopt the minutes from our Borough Council meeting of January 15th, 2019.
Second.
Motion has been put forth by Council Vice President Bria and seconded by Councilperson Thompson. Okay, any questions about the minutes? Any edits? Concerns? Hearing none? All right, have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstaining.
And one abstention, okay. All right, minutes passed. Let's move on. Progress reports. Let's begin right off with Mr. Solicitor.
Just one item to report on. The Borough Code was amended by the state legislature in December of 2018 to increase from $1,000 to $2,000 the threshold for public advertising for disposing of borough-owned personal property, used equipment, used cars, that sort of thing. I think given that, we're going to need to update our procedures for that. We adopted a resolution in 2017 that set forth procedures for the borough manager to deal with that. So we're going to need to update that given the new threshold. So we'll come back to council with that at a future meeting.
Please do. Thank you, sir.
And that's all I have.
And so, okay. Madam Borough Manager.
One thing I want to mention on my report that I submitted, since so many friends are here, Comcast is going to be working in the borough within the next 3 to 4 weeks, redoing all the wiring. So they really don't think there's going to be many outages, and if so, it would be a short amount of time, like minutes. But they will do letters to everybody, wherever they're going to be working. They're going to be doing door hangers as well. And that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. They have IDs, they'll have stuff, right?
They'll have IDs.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mayor.
So I'm not sure I need to remind anyone in this room, because I guess everyone was listening today, but the Yardley Borough On Air show has switched its time for the new year. So it will now be the first and third Tuesdays of each month from 2 to 3 p.m. And of course, that venue remains open to any council members, any borough staff that would like to come on and talk a topic, promote something, discuss anything Yardley Borough related. We're always happy to have you, and we do extend that invitation to the public, obviously with review of topics. So again, it's first and third Tuesdays from now on, 2 to 3 p.m. Only on WBCB 14.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Chief of Police.
Sorry, citations. We investigated 3 traffic accidents and made 5 arrests, one of which was for DUI.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, Borough Engineer.
Thank you. Recently, for the main and active signal, we just got approval from PennDOT for our traffic counts. So we look to resubmit the signal design in the next few weeks. And then we have a few agenda items that we'll get to eventually.
Thank you. Council Vice President.
Nothing to report tonight, but just do want to remind my fellow council members that you should have received your financial disclosures for 2018 from our manager, and that they are due here in the office by May 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. For my report, I just want to say that was on hand on Saturday to witness the reopening of Landolfi's here on number 40, North Main, which is a wonderful thing. It moved his business back in town a little bit closer. So that was a good event, and that's all I have at this time. Council committees, if I might. Councilperson Thompson.
Nothing from general government. Just a reminder from community outreach, we started this year Council's Corner in the newsletter. And our first Council Corner was a year-in review of accomplishments and decisions that Council made last year. So any committee that would like to highlight what you're working on, I think they're due February 15th. So we'd really like it to not always be community outreach reporting. So if anybody has a story, let me know, and we'd love to get you in there. That's all I have from community outreach.
Thank you, Mary. Mr. Murray, any updates that you'd like to bring forward?
I have an agenda item, so
All right, sir, thank you. Councilperson Brady?
Public safety met this evening, and we were joined by some members of an ad hoc group on North Main Street, so we'll be working with them moving forward on some potential action items that we can take to try and continue to slow some traffic down on North Main Street. And we also met just to follow up on the canal flooding issues that we've been working on. We did meet with State Rep Perry Warren last week, and he was very supportive of Yardley Borough. And we will continue to reach out to DCNR and try and apply some more pressure there, as well as pursue some new grant opportunities that Perry Warren's office just let us know about that's become open. And one is a flood mitigation grant, and this may allow us to potentially put in some drainage in some of the areas where the flooding is happening, or automate the wastegate open enclosure. So, that is something that we'll need to follow up a little bit with the engineer, but I think at the next meeting, hopefully I'll make a motion or ask for consensus so that we can kind of pursue that a little bit further, but just need a little bit of time to evaluate it, read the documentation a little bit more, but that's coming up for the next meeting, and I think that is all.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Vice President.
So Community and Economic Development met last week. We spent the bulk of our time discussing some proposed changes to our sign ordinance here in the borough. These changes they came through HARB, which is the Historic Architectural Review Board. In many areas, I think there are some things that need updating. The sign ordinance is old, so we should just make some changes to modernize it. Some of the other suggestions, I think we need to give some more thought to, or I'm actually leaning towards not recommending to this council. Some of the changes would make a substantial number of the existing signs on Main Street non-conforming. And I think that imposes a very big challenge. So like I said, I'm still thinking about what we would recommend, but I just want to assure everyone that I'm not looking at something that is going to completely upheave what we have here in town.
Would those signs be grandfathered in now?
They would be, but I'm hesitant to do that basically, the way it was presented, every freestanding sign would be grandfathered in, and I'm hesitant to do that for so many. In addition to that, we have just a number of other ordinance changes that I would like to review, sort of on a long-term basis. State law recently made allowances for medical marijuana dispensaries as well as fireworks sales. So something we should look at is whether or not we want to update our zoning codes to address that. The third issue that actually our manager, Ms. Johnson, is helping with deals with a grading permit. So that would require a permitting process when we're disturbing, I believe it was more than 500 square feet of land. And this was recommended by our engineer, so we're taking the first look at that as well.
That conclude your report, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sir, Ross.
Public Works hasn't met since the last time I gave a report. We'll be meeting in 2 weeks, and I'll be able to give more info on that. For the EAC, there's a couple things. The first is that they received a letter from the LMT EAC about doing a joint e-waste recycling in May. So they would need around $200 for that to participate. So we would have it at a middle school on a Saturday in May. So I don't know if I have to make a motion or if we just get consensus for the EAC to be able to have that money.
Should probably make a motion.
All right,
Authorize the
so
expenditure.
last year it was $200. We're assuming it's going to be around that same amount. It might be a tiny bit more. Obviously, if it's anything more, then I'll just request for 250, let's say. that we'd have to come back, but request $250 from Borough Council to support the e-waste recycling event with LMT.
I'll second.
Motion's put forth by Councilperson Roth, seconded by Councilperson Berry. Any questions on the motion? Madam Manager, we're okay with that? Thank you, ma'am. Okay. No questions? Hearing none, let's go for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Abstained? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Ross.
Oh, and then next, I'm going to defer to Michael Thompson, the chair. If anybody has any questions, he's a little busy at the moment. But the EAC worked really hard on a grant with the Pennsylvania DEP for the Buck Creek Watershed Restoration Assessment. They were selected to receive the grant. There's a bunch of paperwork that has to be filled out before it's officially awarded. But it was selected for the full grant amount, and the borough's contribution would be volunteer hours, so there's no physical monetary amount that the borough has to spend, so that's pretty exciting news. They did a lot of work for it. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to ask Michael.
I'll just say congratulations to the EAC.
What's the grant amount?
$69,923.
Nice.
Nice.
Good job. Good job.
And that completes my report.
Thank you, sir. Let's hope the neighbors would talk. Okay. All right, moving on to other reports. Bills list. I need a motion on the bills list.
I move to approve the bills list dated February 5th, 2019.
Thank you. And it's seconded. Okay, motion's been put forth by Councilperson Thompson, seconded by Councilman Berry. Any questions on the motion? Any concerns?
Yeah, I actually missed it last council meeting, but did we?
No, we didn't.
Okay, 'cause it looked like there was, it wasn't in this bill list, it was in the last one. It looks like there was $330,000.
Two bills lists ago, we redacted that, because we cut the check, but then we decided we wanted to just pay it based on the loan terms.
No, last.
I wasn't here last
I
night.
know. Did we pay that bill out? No, we
No.
did 300, because I was just noticing that the balance.
It might not have reflected since we didn't reconcile yet. We're waiting for all
Okay,
the reconciliations.
Because it's $330,000.
Yeah, that money from the sidewalk that we received back went to Pliget. And it'll be in our sidewalk fund and stay there until we're ready to.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Concerns?
Went to the balance, it just
Okay.
went down by $300.
All right, hearing none. Need a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Does any amendment have to follow? No?
No, the bills list this week is clean.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, it's passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to correspondence. Anyone have any correspondence they wish to share?
Yes, I actually have one, and Brian, it's from you. So this was a letter that came from Council President to Jeff Bueller, who is the head of Experience Yardley. They're the nonprofit that leads up Can Halloween, Music on Main, and it was requesting, I guess, some financial reporting for them that would be due in the middle of this month. And I was just curious as to what prompted this request from Experience Yardley.
It's a requirement in the terms and conditions in which we created the Experience Yardley. It's an annual requirement, or we may ask for those reporting. I
Okay,
think it's good government to,
so you're just anticipating on an annual basis then to,
yes.
okay. Thank you.
Any other correspondence? I have one that does address a agenda item this evening, and it came from Councilman Ruddle, who's not here this evening. It's a letter that he wrote about concerns with Reading Avenue. So I figured I would put it out here in correspondence, and then we'll have some discussion when we get to that item issue. Okay, basically it's I'm going to summarize. Mr. Ruddle begins his letter with stating that Reading Avenue has never been deemed or otherwise open space. I think we're all in agreement with that. It was a consideration, something that was looked at, so he's factually correct on that. The letter then goes on to talk about the certainty. If we move forward to preserve that property, that is into the future. And he's expressing concerns about binding future counsel and just basically making a determination where in his belief it's may or may not be necessary. Another issue that he raises is the issue of eminent domain. It is his position that he believes if the property moves to a open space, it's devalued, and that devaluation makes it more attractive for people like SEPTA to, or the rail to take, the Conrail to take the property. Again, he's not here. There's a lot of issues. I'm not saying any of these represent my beliefs in any of this. And basically, his solution is he's recommending that we do nothing and we just simply allow property to sit and we'll make a decision somewhere in future in time. That's his position. But I would read that in out of respect. I've already given the copy of the letter to our secretary to incorporate. So that's it. That ends correspondence. Okay, open public portion of the meeting. This is the portion of the meeting during which members of the audience may address council on matters not on the agenda. If you wish to comment on an item that is on the agenda, you'll be given an opportunity to do so during council's discussion of that item. Members of the audience who wish to address council are asked to stand, give their name and full address. If requested, there will be a follow-up by council committee or council member. Floor is open. Sir.
Just a matter of curiosity, where is Mr. Bob?
Not here.
No, has he given a reason for his absence?
No, sir. We received this letter this afternoon.
I understand, the letter also contains falsehoods, that once the property is put under conservation easement by a third party, it cannot be condemned. But there is such a thing as abandonment of office. If you are not giving legitimate reasons for your not attending a position to which you have been elected, you are in fact abandoning that office. There is a text in the second-class township code. I know you're a borough, it's not a township, but the count lists 3 meetings. You miss 3 meetings, you've abandoned the office. Perhaps.
We have looked into those issues, sir. And that clause does not exist in our borough.
Pardon me?
That clause does not exist in our borough.
I understand, not in the borough code, but the same themes there. I mean, if a person was elected to serve the community and they choose not to do so, and for not, I mean, if the person is ill or hospitalized or traveling or what have you, obviously we communicate that to council and the individual's excused, but just not to show up without any explanation whatsoever is not right. And I think it would be really deeper into the ordinances and legislation. You would find a case to address that issue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Other comments? Sir.
Rob Sims, 138 Longshore Avenue. I just want to thank council for doing the Christmas tree collection. Picked up my tree. I didn't see the newsletter, but how many trees were actually picked up? Anybody have a number? Over 100?
184.
How much?
184.
That's incredible. So the EAC started that in 2009, and we picked up 70 first. So I just want to let everybody know, and Ryan was there. So I just want to thank you for continuing that. That's really awesome. And I know Lower Mayfield, I think they go to Lower Mayfield where they get turned into mulch, so it's a great thing. I just want to thank you for that. Keep it
Thank you,
going.
sir.
This year was a record.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other comments, concerns? Sir.
John McCann, 174 North Main Street. Anyway, I just saw on Terry Warren's update that he mentioned that PennDOT had moved up the North Main sidewalk project. I was just looking for a little information of what that exactly means, and is there an updated timeline? Thank you.
That's a good question. I haven't seen anything.
We just saw the
Came out
truck,
today.
we saw the truck signs at
You were at the load
ordinance.
truck, it had a line about PennDOT was moved up.
Good.
So I don't know what that means.
News to us.
I don't think
We'll be looking at it.
received any grants or anything of that nature.
We've had any communication from them. Let me check his email now.
We'll clarify either way.
Okay, just curious, that's all it was.
I'm sorry, it says the Main Street paving project. On South
Oh, the crosswalks, leaving it low, crosswalks.
The roadway.
But any update in the future would be good.
Understood. We will, we'll put that
Yeah,
in
it
next
says,
reports.
okay, yeah, it does say.
When is our next grant, when's the deadline that they'll let us know? I know we put in another grant.
Probably, I think like midsummer, I would imagine,
Midsummer.
maybe.
Thank you, Mr. McCann, we'll look into that. Any progress is good, that's for sure. Other concerns, questions? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to certificates of appropriateness.
Sure, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve certificates of appropriateness 18-34-40 and 19-01-37.
Second?
Okay, motion has been put forth and seconded. Okay. Put forth and seconded, any questions? Concerns?
The thing in parentheses,
Sir?
approved signs as presented, suggestion.
To increase located at rear, the wording located at rear, increase the size of the wording located at rear.
Are we doing that?
Sure, I guess I can amend the motion to approve certificates of appropriateness 18-34-40 and 19-01-37 as recommended with the suggestions by Harb.
Okay, is amended, is it, get a second on the amended? Same? Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Questions or concerns from the audience? All right, hearing none, go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstained? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Riddell. Okay, moving on. Old business. Councilperson Mouse.
The first one is for a payment certificate for North Delaware Avenue, 2-31. It is from the 2015 grant. It is for Delta inspection for the amount of $66,418.52. So I move to approve payment certificate number 2-31 for North Delaware Avenue elevation in the amount of $66,418.52 to Delta Inspection.
Second.
Okay, motion has been put forth and seconded by Council Vice President Maria. Any questions or concerns? Questions from the audience? All right, hearing none, let's go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, passes unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Ross, you're back up.
The second one is another escrow release for the Foster property in the amount of $18,390. It's been reviewed by the borough engineer and everything is up for that. So I move to approve escrow release number 9 in the amount of $18,390 for the Foster property.
Second.
Okay, motion has been put forth by Councilperson Ross, seconded by Council VP Bria. Any questions or concerns from this council? Hearing none, Mary, you understand, I include you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Good on this agenda, thank you.
All right, any questions or concerns from the audience? Hearing none, let's move forward to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Or abstaining? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Ross. You get to sit this one out. Moving over to Councilman Murray.
So if you don't know, we, council created a committee to provide recommendations for the Reading Avenue Woods property. What the letter from Mr. Rowe referred to earlier. And they put forth a recommendation, and I want to put forth a motion. But I want to read the recommendation first. I'm not going to read the background, but if committee members want to go into more depth, feel free. And then we'll just take it from there. So after several meetings with committee members, borough council members, neighbors, and other interested borough residents, is the recommendation of this committee, the Reading Ave Committee, that Yardley Borough create and institute a conservation easement that protects the Reading Avenue property from future development. The conservation easement should allow for the possibility of its transfer to a land trust in the future. The easement should dedicate the property to public purposes and state that the property is subject to the Donated or Dedicated Property Act, similar to what was done with the Fitzgerald Field property. Different than the Fitzgerald Field easement, the committee does not believe this property is suited for active recreation for a number of reasons. The beneficial characteristic of the property should not be compromised and must remain, at least to its current level, as a sound and light barrier. And its water collection property should not be reduced by way of regrading or addition of impervious surfaces. We believe, the committee believes, the woods can and should be cleaned up, invasive growth be removed, reduced, and trees with better sound and light blocking properties be planted in a series of stages over a period of time. This committee will continue to meet in order to seek opportunities for support, knowledge, expertise, and resources of local groups as well as professionals to do this in a proper and cost-effective way. Ultimately, the conservation easement will create a better aesthetics for Yardley train station passengers, local residents, and motorists, in addition to safeguarding against environmental degradation. So this is from the members of the Reading Avenue Committee. And my motion is, I motion that council directs the solicitor to draft a proposed conservation easement for the Reading Avenue Woods property with guidance from this recommendation from the Reading Ave Committee and in coordination with me, the council liaison, council president, borough manager, for council's consideration at an upcoming meeting.
Second.
A motion has been put forth by Councilperson Berry, seconded by Council. Any questions? Sorry, any questions on the issue? No questions?
Council President?
Mayor?
I just want to thank Councilperson Berry for a very well submitted agenda, very clear in terms of the process. This is, and not knocking any other items, but this is the way that I think that they should be done to advise everyone what's going down. Thank you.
A good summary.
Good summary.
And I thank the committee who did the labor.
Okay, that's it. Any questions from the audience?
I just have a few I just want to go through. So can we quickly just define for everyone what a conservation easement is and how that works on this property? I guess that's probably a lucky question.
Sure. Yeah, so, you know, if the motion were to pass, we would prepare a document that would get filed of a record. First, it would get approved by council, but then, assuming that happens, it would get filed of record, you know, with the county that essentially would then run with the land forever, acting as a restriction on development based on the terms of what the easement says. And it would also, according to the motion, be in the recommendation, you know, put the property subject to the Donated and Dedicated Land Act, which means that it would take a Herculean effort by the borough to overcome the restrictions placed by the easement that would be put in place. It's not impossible, but it would be a difficult task to do that. So that's essentially what it does. It puts the, places restrictions on the development of the property based on what the terms of the easement say.
Next question is, just sort of my curiosity with the possibility of transfers to land trusts. Do we know of any that deal with, I think that parcel is less than an acre. So I mean, certainly we can leave in a provision for them to happen. I'm just wondering if that's something that in practice we might do.
We researched and met with one group that said they would do it, and we would, the committee plans to research several groups.
Okay.
So it has at least one group that said they're interested.
And then with the physical condition of that property, I know we've heard about some drainage issues over there. We've talked about it's rather overgrown. Can we improve it? Probably a little bit ahead of ourselves, but do we have ballpark numbers in terms of cost, what it would take to get that property from where it is now to wherever we want to go?
I don't believe so. I think that would be a long-term budgeting. And if we did go the route of a trust, another organization taking the easement, a stewardship fund would be created and funded somehow, and that would take care of those, those issues with doing the things that the committee wants to do or that the easement allows. The borough, I don't think has funded, to my knowledge, this year, anything to do with that land. Am I right, Paula?
I don't think there is.
So this year, as it stands, in practice, I don't think we could do anything unless we made a motion in terms of tree planting and so forth. So that would be a step to figure out costs.
Okay.
If we wanted to do those things this year.
I guess that seems more long-term, I was just wondering.
I think it would be, and we could have done it last year. We can take care of the land any year, I would say.
All right, that's all.
Okay, sir.
This motion specifically calls for the solicitor to draft a proposed conservation easement. So do we have an estimate on how many hours that would take?
I didn't ask for hours, but you can give an estimate on hours, but I think it would take a couple weeks, if I'm understanding correctly. But do you have an estimate on hours?
I don't, I mean, obviously we have forms of these things, we did one for Fitzgerald Field, that'd probably be where we would start. It probably depends on the level of back and forth, on the precise terminology that would be in the easement. But I don't, I don't see it as a large project.
Great, thank you.
Questions? Audience?
I see one in the back.
I just have one, Ann Beasley, 24 Cadwalader. I just have one question about, I agree with the overall structure. I definitely believe that we should conserve the property. Just, there was some wording in there that said maybe not allowing grading. If you guys adopt this motion today and we decide later, and because I've been helping on this committee, that grading might be useful because it might function as a great rain garden kind of property, and that would require grading to improve its ability to work, to capture drainage. Does that mean if, that would, I guess I would just argue that that might be something we could talk about as we develop the easement.
Yeah, and this motion tonight does not create the easement at all.
Okay.
It just uses the recommendation as a guidance.
Okay.
So that would be one issue that we would,
Okay.
we
That's
would
just,
discuss.
I don't know if that would be feasible for that property, but it is something that it might work out.
It's a good question, and we'll note it.
Thank you, Ann. Sir, Mr. Walsh.
Brian Welch, 22 Reading. I'm on the committee that helped draft the recommendation that Brian just read, and the intention with the grading was no detrimental grade.
Okay.
It was meant, so we can't just change it willy-nilly. It's got to be, it can be graded for correction, but not graded to further reduce any water saving capabilities.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. One more, sir.
Good evening, Roger Zanelio, 180 Harper Avenue. Just one additional comment. The committee has the intention of looking for volunteers and other donations in order to bring the property to our vision. One of the barriers to be able to find out what opportunities there are to do things in a very cost-effective manner is that property has, been disputed for a long time, and there's questions about whether or not it even will be conserved. So that's been a barrier for us to be able to get volunteer help.
Thank you, Ron. Questions or concerns? Hearing none, we'll put it for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving back to Councilperson Ross.
All right, this one is resolution number 19-01. This is to submit the application for the traffic signal approval for improvement for the Green Light Go. So I move to adopt resolution number 19-01 for traffic signal approval application.
Second.
Motion's been put forth by Councilperson Ross, and seconded by Council VP Bria. Any questions or concerns on this? Questions, concerns from the audience? Hearing none, moving to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Moving on to new business. We have an event, a wedding event.
Yeah, so,
Councilperson Thompson.
we have for you a wedding event permit for June 22nd, 2019. I move to approve the Rozic wedding event permit, June 22nd, 2019.
Second.
You guys did want me to note that this is the same day as the Music on Main event, but Wes and Chief do not believe there'll be a conflict. They're not at the same time. But otherwise, Wes approved it.
Okay, motion put forth, seconded? Seconded by Councilperson Ross. Questions?
It just doesn't say on here, where are they doing?
It's in Buttonwood Park.
That's what I figured.
Okay, that's it. Questions, the audience? Hearing none? Put to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Nope. No groom is hollering in the back. Okay, moving forward, unanimous, okay. And the last, Councilperson Brady.
We currently have an opening for a part-time police officer, and so we're looking to fill that vacancy tonight. And the officer that we'd like to extend an offer to, he actually was previously a part-time police officer in Yardley Borough, and I guess just a couple of years ago he left, right? And so he would be coming back, so it would be a fairly seamless transition. And he is not here this evening because he's out of state for some military training. So he will be, if this motion passes, he will be sworn in upon his return. So I move that Yardley Borough extend a conditional offer to hire Gary A. Zumpano as part-time police officer pending certification from the Pennsylvania Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission.
Second.
Okay, motion